Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Complete Review. For the first time ever, I'm introducing it.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
It is, it feels good. It
feels justifiable.
It's nice. And now this is going to blow the minds of some of our listeners.
Yeah.
Right. I'm here
Yeah?
in Wharton.
He is indeed in Bank Lane in Wharton, which is where I live. I do not live at Media City, Salford, apparently. I do for some of the year, but I am back home, and we are both here together.
We've become
one.
We've become them, haven't we, with those enthusiastic tones.
No, we can't say that.
I didn't say who they were.
Okay.
Just said we've become them.
But the Firemaker. Wow.
Wow.
As soon as the screen shut off, I was riveted.
My mind was blown. I weed a little bit. I was going to say something a lot ruder, but I didn't.
No, tears were streaming down my face.
Down my face.
I needed the loo, I'll be honest.
Yeah?
I didn't need the loo. I mean, I think that was just...
Yeah. Exchange of pence.
It was something. Anyway, moving on from all the stupidness, we are together in a room talking about Doctor Who, which hopefully we can do a lot more.
Yeah.
In the near future. It's nice to not have you through a Skype link. The audio is probably a lot clearer. They're probably going, oh, I don't have to keep asking what you're saying all the time as well.
I mean, that is true, actually. The connection...
is much better.
Yeah, the connection is quite terrible.
But we deal with it to get through.
We do. I imagine some of the bits that we release, there'll be some bits which you won't have heard, which would be me going... Mate, I didn't hear you there, we're going to have to re-record that bit.
Well, yeah, those are definitely not going to be in, but yeah.
But that's a little bit of trivia.
It's a little trivia.
One day we may release that. It's not very exciting.
No, it's just... there was one occasion in which you had to say, sorry, what was that? About 3 times, and I was making a really long-winded point, so by the end of it I was just like, I'll just cut the flack and get to it. Anyway, it's episode 4, The Forest of Fear.
No, it's not.
No, it isn't.
It's the fire...
The Firemaker is episode 4 of Doctor Who, isn't it?
Yeah.
I got it wrong. Forest of Fear's last week.
Yeah, it was.
It's week 4.
That's a shame.
And we finished Unearthly Child.
Yeah.
That's a big feeling, isn't it? Our first full story. I mean, we're halfway through now, aren't we?
I'm overjoyed.
Okay. Firstly, I'm going to ask, what was your... Because you've only just watched this, haven't you?
Yes.
You have only
literally, before this review, I was in the living room of Ryan's house. We watched it. I made some notes. Now we're in here and we're recording it.
Yeah. What was your initial thoughts?
I thought, what an end! I thought it was a great ending. It was very brutal, not perfect, but it was. It was brutal. You felt genuine terror for the Doctor. There was a lot of something we hadn't seen in previous episodes. You were kind of disappointed in the cavemen, like not, oh, they're clearly baddies. You actually sort of followed their reactions quite closely.
Yeah.
And most importantly, you rooted for the Doctor and everyone. Bear in mind, at this point, they're new characters, so it's important that you feel like that.
Yeah,
and
it's even well, we'll come on to that, won't we?
I think it succeeded in maintaining the tone and wrapping up the story.
I think it was very enjoyable. I certainly find a lot to quarrel with it. There's very little less. And speaking of quarrels, I'm going to first bring this up. I think I was overtly harsh. He's hiding his notes.
Carry on.
Okay, I think last week I was overly harsh on the Forest of Fear, which is why I mention it. It's been on my mind. It's become a wimp, and Josh in fact persuaded me that I was perhaps being a bit harsh. And in the review,
since then.
No,
I've not been ringing you up, being like, change your rating.
But no, in the review he said, I think you're being a bit harsh. But I said, no, I'll stick with it. But I can't say I've been tossing and turning at night, thinking I've been being too harsh. But I certainly did think, you know what? I think I did. I think it was that cliffhanger shot. I was thinking, oh, it's a bit cheesy, it's a bit over the top, it distracts me from it, and the ending's the important point of the episode, but then Josh said, it's for the kids. That end bit is to really determine, this is what it's about.
It's for the kids.
This is the villain. And I'm not going to, and I must say, we're not going to go through lots of Doctor Who and go, oh, it's okay because it's childish, because then we'd therefore be missing and not critiquing some of the bits of Doctor Who that should be critiqued.
Correct.
But in simple laws of drama, I think I missed out, I was probably thinking, oh, it could be a bit more subtle when, hey-ho, big nice close for someone looking angry is always good, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm bucking it up. Thanks to that whole end sequence, which I was a bit haranguing on, I'm going to give it an 8. So there we go, we got that out of the way.
Happy for you.
I'm happy, it was a personal trauma I've overcome.
This is yet another one where we have the same opinion.
I doubt. Well, I don't think same because we were both picked different bits. But anyway, that's last week.
I mean the same score. Yeah, we need to move on. This
has been long. This has been 5 minutes of us.
This is a self-indulgent review, if ever.
We're together.
Yeah.
We're together in one room. We've got to be a little bit, joyous. We can chat, but we can't go off topic because now I would like to ask you a very important question. Who
won't marry you?
Oh, drat! I'll put the ring away. And the ring sort of had some sticks around it, so you could make fire. Who was the Firemaker about? I'd like to first pose this important question. Who was it about?
I think it was about Tsar.
I think it was about Tsar too.
Wait, we should give a plot summary.
Oh, of course, because we always do this later on, don't we? We forget it and then we do it later on.
We always forget to do that.
Because we get into it and then we... So, go on. You've done it so far. I'd like you to do it again. I'll start with the Daleks next week.
Alright, sure. Alright, so basically, our favourite four geezers, they're nearly at the TARDIS.
Whom would they be?
You know, the Doctor,
Ian, Babs,
Susan, Ian,
Suz,
Babs, Atron, and they're there with Tsar, and... Do we ever find out the name of Tsar's wife?
Her.
She's called Her.
That's the joke. They say it in the previous episode. She's called Her as in H-U-R.
Oh.
That's the joke, because she's the only female there, other than the old... And the old woman's called Old Woman, so it's a bit of commentary. It's quite like that.
Nice. That is nice social commentary. But yeah, they're about to get to the TARDIS. As we know in the cliffhanger, a load of cavemen rise up. Cal's there, he's looking angry. They get dragged back to the cave. OMG, what's going to go down? Cal's like, they killed the old woman. Doctor's like, no, we didn't.
And it's this really good scene.
Really good scene which we'll get into. So like, clearly Cal did not do this, and clearly Tsar did not do this, and here's proof. And there's a lot of knife switching, and they're like, oh. Then they drive Cal out, and then Tsar, still unbelievable, OMG, puts them into the Cave of Skulls again.
What an idiot!
And then he's like, oh, but if you make fire, I'll set you free. Is that going to happen? Who knows? Who knows? We do, because we've watched it.
Yes, we have.
They make fire for him. He doesn't set them free. He goes into the forest. He comes back.
Is that spoiling? That they don't set them free? Because
That's
the big character point in the whole episode.
We can't really go anywhere from there.
Well, the thing is, I say this, and we've kind of spoiled the whole plot each week to each episode. If you've not watched it by now, get a DVD player. What happens at the end of the episode, Josh? It's 50 years old. They should know by now. They should have watched it. And if you haven't, go away, watch it, come back, listen to this, and see if you agree with us. And if you've got any complaints you can have, tell us on Twitter. Tell us on Facebook.
I probably won't read them.
I will, and then I'll tell you. And if anyone
I
goes,
don't want to read a list of complaints.
Well, no complaints about it. You have to say, no, I think. Then we can go, yeah, maybe.
I
just
like
chat to us.
constructive criticism.
Please.
But there's always people, when you've got YouTube comments and stuff, some are genuinely helpful, genuinely, good opinions. But some are just, I want you all to die.
I think Susan does a lot this episode.
Savage.
Well, that's a lie, for starters.
So, you can just tell me the ones I should read.
Yeah.
And I'll read them.
Well, no, we any response, any feedback, it's week 4.
What if they drop the C-bomb at us? Is that constructive?
If he gets really angry, if they get really angry at us. It depends, no, just tell us your opinion of the episode. Go back and watch it, come back, tell us what you think. And yeah, so how does it end? How does this episode end?
Oh, can I say?
I think you can.
Okay. So Cal and Tsar getting this real badass fight.
It's not like Marvel Avengers.
No, it's not. You're not getting Iron Man flying through the air,
which is why it's good.
Hulk. Well, I mean, I quite like the Avengers fights.
But it's not this. It's not less brutal, is it?
It's not as nowhere near as brutal as this. But yeah, Tsar wins. Cal's dead.
Shock
horror. And then he's like, yeah, we can't really let you go, Doctor. Sorry. He doesn't call him Doctor, obviously, but he's like,
Nobody calls him Doctor. That's a really interesting point. They've never mentioned he's called the Doctor yet. They mentioned it once last week, and you said it's the first time. Yeah. They didn't call him Doctor this week.
They didn't.
Let's count that. That's another score. We've got another count on the list, which we'll talk about later. We've got another list we're going to go through. But no, yeah, they basically they are trapped in the Cave of Skulls still. It all gets a bit morally iffy with Tsar, who we'll talk about, who's the best character in this, and they escape and get back to the TARDIS, but not before they are chased because they try to dupe Tsar into thinking that they are dead by using burning skulls, and then they get out, and it's all okay. So that's the plot, but basically you don't need to tell that. Watch it.
Watch it.
Watch it. It's very good. And now it's 10 minutes. That's a nice prelude. In we go.
All right.
Who is this episode about?
I think it's about Tsar.
Go on.
It's called the Firemaker for a start.
Which is what Tsar wants to be.
Yes.
But it is not Tsar.
No.
And that's the interesting point.
But Tsar, he is what drives the action. Like, even the fight is with him.
It's Cal coming to him, not him coming to Cal.
Yes.
And I think this is an interesting shift in the story, because before this, we didn't really know who it was about in the Cave of Skulls, which I think, looking back, makes it a bit weaker. But as soon as you get to that scene in the Forest of Fear, where he gets injured, it suddenly becomes about him.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Which is nice. I think we needed that. And there were some genuinely good moments with Cal. Like, at first you think he's just gone back on what you thought was...
Cal? Do you mean Cal?
I mean Tsar. There were some genuinely nice moments with Tsar.
Yeah.
For example, you think he's gone back on everything when he says, put them back in the cave. He's like, oh, I thought things were going to be all right.
But yeah, because he basically, because in the scene, I'll get to my notes, all that stuff with him and Ian, and he immediately goes back on Ian's advice, because Ian says, drive them out, and then says, remember, not one person is more important than the whole tribe.
One man is not stronger than
and
the whole tribe.
He says that to Tsar, and then he completely goes against that by Tsar being a dictator and saying, take him to the Cave of Skulls.
Yeah.
Like, almost immediately goes back on Ian's word. And this is what the Doctor said last week, and I've wrote this down here. He said they're savages because their emotions change. Their emotions literally flip from one moment to the other because they don't remember anything.
Yes.
All this episode, they say, did you remember that? What was it? There was a line about the leader, wasn't there?
Yeah.
A leader must remember things, which is a great line. It's all about memory, and these... I think they're quite... If cavemen existed... What do you mean? I don't mean that. They did exist. I mean, when cavemen existed, I imagine this is quite a good... Of course, it's not accurate. I'm sure the Doctor didn't land there, really. Sorry to break your hearts, but I imagine this was, a similar way. If you were a developing human being, your emotional state and your memory would not be the best.
No, it wouldn't, of course. And
it's a really good display of that, to see these people who cannot... The Doctor says it in part 3, and it's shown here perfectly. It's good setup. Yeah. You can't reason with them. You can try. And it's almost like he gets to Tsar. Ian does get to Tsar, and he even calls him friend. And if you like to talk about that bit, which I think was quite funny.
Yeah, it was banter. But there's also the way that one thing that really got me is when he says, and it's sort of an extension of this, a kind of a sort of simple-minded character. Mm-hmm. He says to them, "Why would you want to leave?
Yeah,
there's nothing for you out there."
This is the Tsar saying this, just to context. This is Tsar saying this to the TARDIS crew.
It's the TARDIS crew, and it's kind of like, yeah, you're holding them prisoner, and that's terrible. But is that just because of the fact that you are this caveman, like you said? It was
exactly.
Very interchangeable. You just can't comprehend the idea of space travel.
Yeah.
He genuinely thinks, why would they want to go out there
because
anyway?
he believes they're from the other tribe.
Yeah.
He believes they're literally... Because he can't comprehend anything else. He can't comprehend a wider world. He just comprehends tribes, meat, and life. It's all very simple.
Something is on the other side.
He mentions in this episode, they mentioned it twice, Orb, who is like their god, which is the sun. They believe the sun is God. And if you think... And this is interesting as well. If you think sun is God, then of course you'd be wowed by fire, because it's light.
Yeah.
It is the most literal interpretation of God as light.
And for them, they'd survive better in the day.
Exactly.
So like, when their God appears, everything is right again.
Exactly. So it all makes sense, doesn't it? There's the eternal logic.
It actually starts to click, sort of why they run the world in the way they do.
Which I think that's clever writing, because it never stands there to say, this is our world, but you get it. Yeah. You build it up through the dialogue and the characters, which is
nice.
Which is how it works.
Yeah,
it's how
good.
What do you think of Tsar as we go through the episode? Because he has this little conversation with her, about what happens. And if I look here, her says about the Doctor and the TARDIS crew when they helped him that their hands moved slowly and their faces were not fierce. And all the scene here, and how he says, "Oh, they must be from a different tribe. They do things differently. They know about fire." It's like almost like I would read this as like evolution.
Yeah, he was just grasping these concepts
of evolution. Yeah.
It was quite nice. It's like you could literally see the cogs whirring inside his brain.
It's like, and this is what I wrote about, which is great. The Doctor has literally he's gone back and he's given this one caveman, because I don't think anyone else learns much, do they?
No, not really.
Other than the secret of fire.
A little bit.
The wife a little bit.
Yeah.
But Zar's the only one who comes away, and you can see, despite him still having this simple mind that can't comprehend it, he's kind of gained a bit of compassion, but not in the sweet, sugary TV drama sort of way you expect. Like when he comes in and goes, "Are you hurt?" He says that and immediately says about,
Has anyone hurt you? And it's a bit awkward because you can tell he's like...
He's trying.
It's almost as if he knows he's gone back on his word and that's a bad thing. He feels bad for it. So he's trying to compensate for that by asking how they are and trying to be nice.
Yeah.
Which you would not expect from his character, which is brilliant.
It's all very simple and in occasional little lines, but this whole realisation of change, and then Zar remembering Ian's advice. Not one man. I'd like to give a dramatic reading of it.
One man is not stronger than the whole tribe.
Yes, very good. And
That's not an impression of Ian.
Who is brilliant in this?
Ian is very good.
Because he's the real Firemaker. Really.
We want to make fire. He's Interesting thing about him though is when he's asked who the leader is, he's asked to see the leader.
Yes.
And he still points out the Doctor when the Doctor hasn't really
done anything.
Apart from getting them out of trouble when Cal is saying they murdered him, which was a very clever moment.
We'll come on to that in a minute when we talk about the Doctor, but we've moved on kind of from Zar to Ian, so I think we might as well talk about Ian now. That moment, I think, is key to Doctor Who now. That's the moment he's the main character, not me. Because so far, you don't know who the main character is, really, do you?
No.
You're thrust into this world, and it's more of an atmosphere drama than a character drama.
Yes, that's it, yes.
It's more of an atmosphere drama because it's all about learning about all these people around you. It's like a sitcom, you have all the little crew, so Zar's there, we know about him, we know about him. This is where we go, it's the Doctor's show. And we mentioned in the Cave of Skulls, where he jumps up from the rock in episode 2 and talks about that. I think that's nicely mirrored by the scene at the start of this episode, where he jumps up and once again is like, oh, here's the rock, and he proves that Cal is actually a really bad guy and that he did the murder.
Clever. And also the way he gets him to reveal his own knife. When he goes, this is the best knife I've ever seen.
It's funny.
Yeah,
it's funny, but it's not mocking.
No.
It's almost like we can look at it from our perspective and laugh and go, oh, that's funny because the cavemen are stupid. But then actually, it's him trying to connect with a different culture.
Yes.
Which is what Doctor Who's about, isn't it? Because I think later on, you don't have real alien races who feel different. They're just humans in funny hats. Here, it is a real different... I know they're not an alien race, but they are a real different people. Yeah. And he has to change his vernacular, his vocabulary, to understand them. But we were discussing Ian at a moment where another tangent there, where he says about the him being the leader. Do you think that fits with Ian's character? Because in episode 3 we're saying, oh, he's this heroic lead who can be a bit sexist, but he's not. He's just trying to protect the women.
I think Ian's character is more. He's always trying to do the right thing. I don't think it's.
I don't think it's ego.
Yeah, no, I don't at all. And I think that proves that. I think he could have got lost in episode 3, thinking. That's what he is.
Maybe he wants to be the...
He's just wanting to be sort of the heroic guy that that stereotypical character. Yeah. But I think he is more than that, and that shows him having quite a bit of heart and his nice little bit of writing. And he's literally passing the torch. Leadership role.
What's great about that, though, is you cut to the Doctor's expression, and he's a bit confused. Yeah. He's a bit like, oh, what?
He's expecting another conflict. That's how he's been getting by.
With Ian, so far. And there's even a bit here where they grab each other and he's like, no, wait. And the Doctor, throughout this, when, of course, Ian beats himself up because I don't mean literally, but he's like, oh, I was a fool, I shouldn't have given them fire, because, of course, after giving them fire, they just leave them in the cave, trapped, the TARDIS crew. And the Doctor grabs him and he's like, wait, don't worry, you'll find a chance. The Doctor acts as a mentor figure in this. He's still a bit aggressive. He still grabs him by the cuff of his shirt. He's like, no, wait. But it's there.
It's progress.
Yeah.
It is evolution.
Exactly. It's evolution. It's characters changing. But this is one thing, before we go on to the great rock scene in a bit more detail, and how it makes Cal look like a bit of an idiot, let's just get this out of the way. Susan and Barbara. Ian and the Doctor, I think, are brilliantly written throughout this.
Yeah, and Barbara's usually written brilliantly.
But this is the first episode where I think she has had other than fall over in a really odd manner, which you complain about when watching,
Oh yeah, because it just kind of broke up the chase scene. I mean, I understand in the fear of the situation, but it's always her or Susan, which I think is a shame and a bit
Well,
unrealistic.
in the Visitation, Adric falls over. Men can fall over too.
Which is realistic.
Yeah.
It's stupid. They're going, oh, they're so vulnerable. They're going to fall over at pivotal moments all the time to show how vulnerable they are.
But I hate this when people say, "Oh, classic Doctor Who females are always doing that." In this situation, you would. It's just a shame that we don't see Ian falling over a lot more.
Yeah.
That's the thing that can make it a bit off. But Ian has gone through. He's been through a lot in
He
this.
looks very dishevelled.
He takes his tie off
Yeah.
and pops it in his pocket, which is like
Even that's a subtle thing. Where
it's his Coal Hill tie as well.
Yeah.
He mentions that later in the Web Planet. He takes his school tie off, and now he's an adventurer. Like in a new series, you'd have a big dramatic music as he takes his tie off. It's like I am.
Throws it to the ground.
Throws it on and now
in
says,
slow motion.
"I am the Doctor's companion." But just watching that a little time, exactly, and then Ian's theme plays. If you're any composer in the audience, tell us what Ian's theme would sound like if this was a new series episode. But no, that's subtle. He just takes it off. He's like, yeah, it's a little moment. He's wet. He's tired. I'll take my tie off. But that's him throwing away the last thing that he had from his school tie. It's odd. It's not a big moment, but that's what's going character. But no, but Barbara and Susan. I'd say Susan does more than Barbara.
Susan's got a brilliant bit. I think earlier I said Susan's. No, I did say Barbara's usually written brilliantly.
Yeah.
Which is
It's
what I meant.
it's Susan who so far
Yeah.
we agreed in episode 1, Unearthly Child Part 1. She is amazing. She's wonderful.
Yeah.
She pretty much she is the plot, isn't she? It's an unearthly child. Here, would you like to go into your amazing?
There's one good bit, which is at the end. They decide how we're going to escape in a very morbid way, and you find that Susan has a lot of quite morbid moments, which are brilliant. She picks up a skull and she uses the fire to light the skull. And it's like, yes, what a night! She doesn't literally make that reaction.
No.
But she's like, yeah, this is a good idea. We're going to run out with skulls that are fire.
To make them think that they are dead.
Which is actually a very clever plan. Very morbid, but very clever.
And it also turns as well, from a sort of writing point of view, the fire is their god, and now he's saying, your god has killed... Because we said it's like, basically the fire is like their god, like there's all the scenes where they're going around it worshipping it. Tsar, when he looks at it for the first time...
He's literally kneeling on the floor, staring at the fire.
He can't believe it.
He can't.
And so therefore he's saying, this thing you love so much, it can also kill people. Which, I'm sure you can make... I'm sure if you edit this, you can make it into a really dull fire safety, personal, fire safety film. But it's not that. I'm taking it something more like, you want this so badly, but it's also, on a more metaphorical level, rather than just fire kills, this is a really, you wanted this so much, but look...
You could spend hours, I think, going into finding some deep hidden thing. I think it's just a very simple message.
I don't think it's deep or hidden.
Yeah, the things...
I don't think it's deep or hidden. I'm just saying you
the things you desire can be harmful.
Yeah.
If
Because, and I think it is that. It's not just fire's bad, here's fire, because Tsar has spent the whole story wanting this.
It's called the Firemaker.
Exactly.
There's another reason
It is
so pivotal to the story.
Exactly. And that's what I know people moan this, and they say, and I want to actually just address this now, before we go any further, because it's on my mind. Is this story clever and intelligent, or basic? Or is it basic in a way that it's clever? This is the point where most people go, I don't like this episode because it's simple.
Did it need to be complicated? Is there a need for Doctor Who to be complicated all the time?
I mean in the sort of plot, the sort of basic, need fire plot, but...
That's the cavemen, though. It's perfect for the environment they're in.
I think lots of people view it on that basic level of just, they need fire because then they can get meat. Which is the reason they give. But as we were saying about the evolution points, there's something going on underneath. And through the character of Tsar, I think that's what makes it really interesting. It is very intelligent, the way Tsar comes to realise. And he tries to be compassionate. He tries to do what Ian taught, not just Ian, but all of them taught him. And I won't say talks, it's more just like they do it. It's not like, this is what you should be to be a good caveman, Tsar. It's like, they just instinctively help. Barbara did last week, and now Ian's there saying, remember this, Cal's an idiot, you can drive him out. It's all very well done, and that's why I think it shocked me, and I don't know why. What would you say to people who kind of have this viewpoint, from your point of view, about this story?
Like I said earlier, I don't think it needed to be complicated, the plot.
Mm-hmm.
They need fire to survive. It's everything that they need. everything they want, and that's the
It's
purpose.
also a
of the
mystery
episode.
in this, isn't it? Because from their point of view, from their point
Fire
of view.
could be anything. It's this big mystical thing.
Exactly, and I think people should view it more. Because I was looking at, this is what I mean. To us, it's basic, but because it's a story about cavemen, it needs to be.
Yeah, and also look at when Ian is trying to make fire with sticks, and it looks so wrong.
Yeah,
They are literally out of their time, and that works brilliantly.
yeah.
And that's I think that's the point of the episode. The plot is basic, the environment is basic, because it makes it stand out more.
Yeah.
I think
It's more brutal. Basic is brutal.
Yeah, it stands out more than, say, in other episodes where it's this big fantastical world which you expect. You don't expect in a time travelling episode for something so bleak.
Yeah.
And that only comes with simplicity.
Simplicity is complexity, is the classic quote. I take it you don't like that quote.
No, it's very true. It's just the fact that it was said. I can't describe why.
So, Josh, there's a bit when we were watching the episode, which I think it was my favourite part of the episode, and it was a part where I was totally sucked in, and it's just 3 lines of dialogue and a grunt, and you said, yes, I like that.
Yes, I know.
That is the point.
I know what you mean. It's when you think that they've made fire, and you think, oh, Tsar's going to let them go free, then they don't, and they're still there. And it's quite a somber moment where Susan goes, "We helped you."
Yeah, I think I've got the exact quote. It is we helped you. Yeah, it was we helped you, and the exact quote is,
"We have fire now." It's like that horrible thing of they're not needed anymore, and Ian's like, "I was the fool who gave it to them." It's like, dude, that's quite horrible. What a horrible world where you always need leverage over someone to get what to survive.
And when you think about it, is Ian giving the fire? Is it good? Have they changed history, or were they meant to give them the fire? In the broader context of Doctor Who,
Well, I mean, it was never really explained. I don't think.
By this point,
wrong, but in the sort of a historical sense, it's never really explained how exactly and when.
Gave fire, yeah.
Because we don't know. We can't know that.
Maybe it'll die out again because they said that they once knew how to make fire. And Hawg, who is Her's mother, says, "I saw it. It made the meat and the fire fuse." And it's obviously this thing that was a lost art, and they've gone into another sort of dark age, as it were.
But I don't know. Maybe it's just that tribe.
Yeah, maybe it is
just
that
a tribe that's dying
forgotten.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what makes it even more grim.
There's something quite lonely about their tribe as well. I don't know if it's just the world of the Doctor Who. You can read in a lot to this, but when you've got cracks in time and all of that.
Reading a lot into it, that's what we're here for. But reading is analysis, and we're here to analyse, so that's what we're here for, lads.
You wouldn't have seen it, but I just dabbed.
Wow!
Wow!
Right. And I was the fool who gave it to you.
I was the fool who gave it to you.
It's a bit horrible.
It is. It's a bit bleak.
As we said, do you think that Ian giving them the fire? Do you think he's? Let's go back to Zar for a moment. Do you think it's a personal satisfaction for Zar, and that's all it is, or that he actually wants it for the tribe?
I think he wants it to stay in control.
Because that's all he ever said. He says as where's the line? If I look for it, as the old men say, you have to get the fire to be ruler, and that's what he says. So it's almost this generational thing, it's been passed down. You need to have the fire to be ruler, but that's kind of, is that all it is, or does he actually want it for any other purpose?
To study the mind of a caveman. Because I can't help but wonder, is there any form of subconscious within his brain? Is any part of him trying to, recapture what his father once did? Or is any point, Because
it's that lovely scene with him and her, and they're just chatting about what's happened. And there's a really nice bit, I mentioned about evolution.
Yes.
And there's a good shot. The scene starts with Zar in one side, and you see the side of his face, and her in the background. And then, at the end of the scene, when of course they've discussed the past and they go forward to the future, it's very simple directing. Zar turns around and is instead facing right, i.e. facing off the screen rather than back outside the screen. Do you see what I mean?
I didn't notice that.
And basically, and her is also in the background, which kind of shows her is his constant companion whatever he does. And Zar, instead of talking about the past, is now talking about the future and how he will get the fire back, and he goes off screen right. To just a bit of basic directing basics for people at home who might not know. If you're going one way, if you're going left off screen, it's like you're going backwards, and right off screen is usually you're going forwards.
Is that a general rule?
Usually. because if you break it sometimes, you break basic sort of rules that then can look a bit... Unless you've like got a long corridor going off to the left
Actually,
and you know
to
you're
be
going off
fair,
backwards.
on stage, you usually find, if it's set in a living room, it's set in a house, you tend to find the left side
Yeah.
is the front door, which is where people can enter from.
And then they
the
go...
right side will be another room in the house.
Which is usual, as we said, this is still from the stage era of television, isn't it?
Yeah.
So a lot of it is blocking, and a lot of the great direction comes from blocking rather than, wow, what a snazzy shot. And that I watched that scene, and they sit down, they talk, and then they move on and do that. And just something as little as that, it's the evolution of the shot. It literally, the shot progresses and changes as the conversation progresses. And I think that's what I said this a couple of weeks ago. That's a lost art in TV.
Yeah.
That sort of way that you can get a shot, a static shot, but the movement of actors to show the feeling of the scene, to show what it's about. If you are into that sort of thing and are into like directing, watch that scene. It's very, very, very simple. It's like almost like no set, just two cavemen against a rock. But it's really it gets the feeling of it. Zar says, "I must hear more things to remember," and the great line about a leader must have things to remember.
Yeah.
He's now moving on to the past. He's talked about the past, now he's going to the future. Really simple, but it's once again that good simplicity.
It's another sad part of Zara as well. It's like he relies the way he sees it.
It's all. I said this earlier in another part. It's all generational, isn't it? It's all
No,
like the
he-
lost art of fire from the past.
Yeah, that. But also he relies on Ian.
Yeah.
He relies on them staying, I think.
And that's why he wants them to stay.
Yeah, him
It's
letting them
sad.
go,
It's sad.
What happens to him once the TARDIS is gone? At some point, I think Zara is going to get killed.
The final shot is him looking confused and like, what? And you could say it's either confusion at the TARDIS or just, oh, they've gone. What am I going to do now? Because he's probably going to die,
Yeah,
Zara, after this.
Which is really sad.
'Cause he
I think
can't
the
make
whole-
fire.
Then the whole tribe will die.
But he did say, oh, I've got all the materials to make fire now, didn't he? When he was boasting in the cave and he was
Doesn't
like...
know how to use it though. I think that's just boasting.
Yeah, and then he was... Because then between that he was asking, are you okay? Are you hurt? And trying to be comforting to them. Do you think he's a sad character?
I do a little bit, just
Because he started off as we didn't really know, and that's once again great progression. Because by the end of it, we know Cal. Yeah, you're the power hungry. He just wants, which makes it odd because I'm still
That's
not.
what he has to do. That's his role in society. He doesn't know any different, and it is. I think it is quite sad.
Yeah. Speaking of sadness, let's have a bit of joy. One of my funniest scenes has got to be the rock scene we mentioned earlier, where the Doctor he's a bit patronising, but
Yeah, he's.
he's a bit patronising, but basically
We helped you to make fire.
And do you think he still thinks that he's mindless savages? Was the Doctor... That's an interesting point. I've got it down on my notes. Was the Doctor right? In pre-episode 3, he said they don't remember anything. They don't... You know, their emotions change as quickly as night and day. They are savages.
Zara's the only exception, I think, to this, and maybe her. And
But is the Doctor right? Is the Doctor right for essentially being a bit cruel?
Most of them, yes. But
And the
I
pack
think he
mentality.
learned something, is that when he at least attempted to reason with them, they always got further.
Yeah.
And they just shouted or tried to run away.
Mm-hmm.
In general.
They
are fickle, they are very interchangeable, and will turn on you at any moment.
It's that pack mentality. We see it in each part. So in each part, there's always a... "Whoa,
Yeah,
whoa,
there's all, and no, we don't think like this. We think like this. Yeah, we do. No, we think
And it's
like
the
this.
stilted
Yeah.
dialogue that's written by. It's like, he did not do this. He did this, and it's like that, and it's like it is. That's as I said. That is indeed the point. But there's this lovely scene where the Doctor, and I think, and I've wrote this here. The Doctor's very impish in this episode. He always scampers around. He's scampering
a bit more
around.
whimsical.
I think he's very, to coin a term, doctorish.
Sorry, I had to pause there because my mind was blown.
Do you see my point? I feel we keep
I
saying
do.
we keep saying throughout this. We've been saying all little flashes of the Doctor we know. I think this is the biggest display of it. Yeah, that little scene where he's there saying, and he mocks he mocks Cal's rock by saying that it is a bad knife because it does not show the things that it does and all this stuff because
Doesn't Cal say that?
that is what Cal says,
Yeah.
and then the Doctor of course rebukes that by saying, yeah, but your knife, but this knife's the best in the world. I mean, look at yours. Yours has got blood in it. So it mustn't be that bad because it shows the things it does, and it's like, oh, just watch the scene. It's hard to explain it because it's this twisted logic, isn't it?
Yeah.
The whole scene works in this twisted logic.
The episode in general is just very twisted.
Yeah, the whole
not
story
nice.
kind of, it does work on this sort of odd twisted logic that we can like, because these cavemen can be used, they can be sort of abused by it because of what they say because they don't understand, so they're easy to manipulate.
Yeah.
So whether the Doctor there, and I've got this point here I'd like to ask you, is the Doctor being sort of heroic or imperialistic? As in enforcing his view and changing...
I think he's being heroic for the people he's with, but a bit imperialistic at times towards the people he's dealing with. As in the enemy.
Well, we say the enemy, don't we? But they're not really,
They're not,
are they?
no,
And that's
kind
what
of
makes
just-
me kind of feel, is he being a bit imposing? Is he being
it's
a bit...
not their fault.
like the
these people
sarcasm of...
landed in the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the whole sarcasm of, we made you fire. You know, it's all a bit... That's what makes it odd and makes me doubt the Doctor being who he is. But it is still continual signs of what he will eventually become, what he will evolve to be.
Very much so, yeah.
Would you like to discuss the fight?
Yes, I would. So there's a fight scene between Zara and Cal.
It's the big confrontation.
Big confrontation. It's been built up to for a while. And it pulls off very well in general. It's brutal. It really is. It's brilliant with the camera is doing everything it can to keep the two
Capture
of them
the-
in the shots,
yeah.
keep them there. And he breaks his neck at the end, and there's this horrible scream and
Squeal, and then just drops him.
yeah.
And it's the way, I think the bit that gets me is how Zar is sort of... He's like bobbing up and down a bit, like an animal, like when they kill it. The whole thing is very animalistic, and at that point, because Zar, this episode, he's made all this progression, you remembered, actually, they are still basic humans, aren't they? They are still the most basic people possible. He's just killed another man like he would kill an animal, then drags him off from his leg, you know. It's I don't want to say heartbreaking, because it's not heartbreaking, it's just sort of melancholy, sad, like, oh, all that effort.
Just a bit. There's no
Nasty,
hope.
yeah.
There's no hope.
It's a bit
Nasty.
hopeless. But the Doctor did say last week, we'll always have hope. And I guess you get that from the TARDIS crew.
Yeah,
And
when
Susan's
they
big
arrive at the
idea.
TARDIS at the end, never felt more relieved.
Would you like to say this? You were saying to me earlier about how moments you remember from Classic Who, and you said this about the fight.
Yeah,
Like
I
big
always remembered the fight. I don't know why. It just stood out. But maybe that's why. It's just that really highlights the savagery that's only really talked. The savagery is only expressed vocally mainly.
Yeah.
In those three parts. And this is just sort of a reminder of that. You've got the whole, oh, is he good, is he not? And then that fight happens. It's kind of... that, I think, more than anything else, expresses the world that they're living in. That expresses the real danger. It's that violence.
You said you didn't like some of the direction in the fight.
Only bit of direction I didn't like was the close-ups on their individual faces. I
Of the TARDIS
understand
crew.
why they were there. It's too animalistic about two people that aren't the main characters if you don't have the close-ups. And it also gives you a nice little, more understanding viewpoint. A bit, it's like people...
Like Susan, I think the one that works is Susan screaming and covering her face when the neck's broken.
Yes, that really shows you how out of place they are and how much you want them to get away.
Yeah.
But just objectively watching it and how it works just as a piece of television, it's a bit annoying having that in there. Because the fight's very good, but in the context of the episode, I can completely understand why it's there.
There's a killer shot as well, the final shot of the programme where they run over the sands back to the TARDIS. And there was a moment that you particularly liked.
Yeah, a bit ironic.
Would you like to quote what you said when watching the programme?
I said it was orgasmic. And it was the bit where they all running back into the TARDIS, the four of them, and the Doctor's the last to do that.
Yep.
He sort of stands at the door, he sort of looks back, kind of this face of, oh God, right, we need to leave, and then he runs back into the TARDIS and closes it. Just that little bit, in this frantic build, that one little bit of stillness,
Yeah.
as if he's looking back and it's, oh my God, look what we've been through, kind of look. There's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
much you can interpret from just that one
Shot.
expression.
Yeah.
And that's brilliant. That was amazing to watch because you're kind of there like, yeah.
And I would say the last 10 minutes of this, as soon as you get that big jolt after her goes, we have fire now, and Susan's like, we helped you, you then go, oh, that's what this was about. And then it's all built from there. The fight. Zar's resolution, Cal's death.
I made very limited notes in that in the
Same
last
here.
10 minutes because it was captivating. I didn't feel the need to.
Because I just kind of...
I knew I'd remember.
By that point, I was like, that's it. I know what's happened. I know what's going for. And then the ending, I think we should maybe talk about in the TARDIS. You said you don't believe... The Doctor says this stuff like, oh, I don't have the right data, or data, which I'm slightly annoyed about. The Doctor uses the American pronunciation of data, presumably so they could sell it to the Americans. I don't know. I'm not sure why. Maybe it sounds more science fiction-y to say data than data.
Maybe.
I think that's the only reason.
I can get very pernickety about these things.
I'm not going to be deducting points for that. But no, the Doctor says he can't... This is the first time he admits, I cannot fly the ship. Because in episode 1 and 2, a bit at the start, it's all this wonder of, oh, I've got a spaceship. Oh, we're so much more advanced than you, Ian, and a bit mockering of him. And now he reveals, oh, I can't fly it.
Maybe it's because of how self-righteous is he all the time. You think, no, he must be capable of it, really. Or maybe it's because you think he doesn't want to take them back yet. I don't know if I believe him when he says, I can't.
I believe it, because throughout he keeps landing in all these places and he clearly doesn't want to. And the whole of the first season, the only reason they stay in these events, usually, is because something happens to the TARDIS, or something happens that separates them, and they need to get back to each other, to get back to the TARDIS, to get home. I think it's only about season 2. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but they start being that. I believe that the Doctor honestly can't.
Okay.
Or at least he could, but he's just not. I don't think he's as clever as he makes out. Like the moment where he says, Ian says, oh, he's our leader, and it's the big character resolution, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because this was building up through the the Forest of Fear, their little bout about who's the alpha male, as it were. And we reveal the Doctor, and the Doctor looks a bit confused, like, oh, shit, I'm the leader. And at the end, he's like, I can't fly the ship. So they're all, and this is why I put it here, which is why this sets up the series perfectly. They're all in the same boat now.
Which is nice.
The Doctor, there's no superior. The Doctor isn't. He's maybe superior in like knowledge a bit, like Susan of future tense.
But he's not, because he's been to more places.
Exactly, but he's not superior in terms of knowledge, like basic common instinct, like Ian making the fire or Barbara helping Zar in the last episode with his wounds. It's all. Finally, they're all in the same boat. They're all, they're all as helpless as each other, trapped in this time vessel, which sets up the series perfectly. Yeah. You needed this all to happen so you could get to this point.
That's one way in which it all ties together, those four. We finally getting a glimpse of them being a community.
Yes.
Dark community, admittedly, but community nonetheless.
Exactly. It all comes together. No, and one thing I was going to say, the whole thing about Zar, when I said about being animalistic in the fight, I wrote here, which is interesting. This is our hero, our changed character. It's this whole thing. I think this whole story, and you mentioned this last week, it's daring.
Oh yeah, God yeah. Especially if there's a whole family that's watching it. It is daring. It's brutal. It's bleak. And these are the words I keep repeating.
We all do, but I think there's a reason we keep repeating them, because it's what's on our minds. When I think of this story, some people say, "Oh, it's dull caveman politics," and no, I want to be leader. That was not put in editing. That was a text tone. I think it's brutal. But do you think if you watch this as a child, because we always get going on about context of the '60s, do you think you watch this as a child? What do you think you'd think of it?
I think you'd be rooting for the characters, and I think there's enough there to grip you. I don't think you'd particularly be thinking about the politics, but you'd know. Right,
would you be thinking about like Zar? Would you know about Zar's sort of?
I think you'd hate Zar. I don't know if you'd.
Would you get the whole were you hurt and all the subtleties of his character, which we've pointed out? Which
depends on the kid.
Yeah, it depends on the kid. But I mean, on a basic level, I think a kid would be terrified and enthralled.
Yeah.
If I had to use 2 words, because at the end we were sucked up. We're not kids. Well, we're big kids. We're big reviewing analytical kids. Wow. And and it's that whole thing about it. It is engaging for adults and engaging for us, and also a kid can watch this and get the basic cavemen bad running after with spears, Doctor get out. It's engaging on lots of different levels, and that works. Here's an interesting point. It's probably a bit more philosophical. Orb, I mentioned about the sun being their god.
Yes.
is Ian, on the Doctor, are they playing God by forwarding evolution, by giving them fire?
Arguably, yeah. I mean, they have to for their survival.
For their survival. There's a sort of point here. This whole being leader or die that Zar said regarding his like father and all this stuff. All that stuff is going backwards, generational. It's like, you know, all this stuff is, the secret fire's in the past. It's all we want to focus on the past. I even said this about some of the shots earlier with Zar's face looking backwards. But as soon as the Doctor comes along, they push everything forward. This story wouldn't happen, arguably, if the Doctor didn't arrive.
No, well, not for that tribe. I think the tribe would have died if he hadn't come. I think the tribe are going to die, even though he has
come. Yeah,
it's just been a bit of a minor drama for everyone in the tribe.
It's. I'm sure they'll probably. It's a bit of a grim way to end, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a bit nasty.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Nothing of substance.
Nothing of substance.
No.
I've got a couple of things to mention here.
I did have
one
thing. Sorry, one reason the fight stands out is that the plot formula that builds up to it is brilliant. It's classic formula in the sense that they've just made the fire. You think, oh great, it's going to be okay. Bang, something even more dramatic happens. It's that classic, we've nearly got to the end, boom, the enemy arrives.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Classic formula that will go on for decades and decades and decades. And it's established here, and that's brilliant.
I also like how before the fight starts, Cal has to look at the fire.
Yeah.
And get down to it. They're both on the same level. Again, nobody is bigger than the other.
No.
Because normally if you build up to a fight in any form of television, one person you'll kind of know who's going to win.
This fight, you don't actually know.
There's no odds, and it's a reminder when he gets down to the fire and looks at it. It's just like Zar did in the same episode. You know, he did it as well. They are both these base, brutal human beings. Of course, one we don't like as much as the other.
And it's better put people on a level playing field before a fight happens, because otherwise you kind of know it's always the good person wins. You always know.
Because you kind of know, because you could go, Zar's going to win easily, but because he does that, because he gets down and looks at that fire, you go, oh, they're exactly the same. Because I don't know who you'd think would win. I wouldn't know. Because it's so brutal and unforgiving so far. The person who we've seen have a bit of development, and then you got Cal who's just a bit stupid with his whole rock thing. I didn't know who was going to win when I first watched it.
No, not at all.
Of course I knew now. But it's that little things like that, the economy of the writing that just get, or little actions that just make you go, oh, that's history. That says a lot, and it's all very brief, but it gives this good emotional feel to it all. All the right beats are indeed there. Oh, this is one point I was going to make. The woman speaks for him. Cal says that at the very start of the episode. Once again establishing him as the villain because he's a sexist.
Yeah, I don't really have a comment on that.
Do you not really have a comment on this?
Because it's the same that we've seen in previous episodes. It's yeah.
It's the first time we've seen it from Cal, though.
True, but because he's such a villain, it doesn't feel like a surprise particularly.
Yeah, well, that's what we expect, and also we
It's just
sense
like adding fuel. I would say at the beginning he is established as full-on villain, no redeeming features.
Well, with that, and then you've got the rock scene. It all builds up. The whole thing is, I think, very well paced and very well written.
Yeah.
I'd say the only scene that I don't know. You mentioned this, where Horg, who is a caveman who's hers dad, is basically going on about, he's not made the fire yet. Why is he taking so long?
Kind of just give Zara a break.
Yeah, it seems a bit sudden, and it seems he's just in there to...
Although maybe that's the point of the pressure that Zar's under and why it is. So if that is what he's living with, every minute he goes away for just a couple of seconds, if he's not there, constantly reassuring them everything's fine, I am strong, and all of that.
But that's all it's about. It's so alpha male, isn't it? It's such a horrible society to live in. You've got to be strong. You've got to bring the meat. You've got to... I couldn't do that. I don't know if you could do that. It's horrible.
No, I could. That amount of pressure is horrific. And
you are the society. You are the. I've got to bring home everything.
It's a thankless job. At any minute, he could be criticised and killed.
Yeah. He says to the Doctor. It's actually interesting. You said that. He says the meat was hard to kill. The animal was hard to kill. Looking for a bit of compassion, like, oh yeah, I did this, and they ignore him because he's trapped them there. It's a sad, intrinsically sad scenario, and nobody wins. No. Nobody wins in that sad scenario because the Doctor's trapped and Zar's not getting from it. So they are both chips down characters, pretty much throughout. Well, that's nice and grim, isn't it, folks? Don't we love a bit of grimness here? That's one thing. Was there any much more humour in this? Because you said there was a last episode.
There was a
It's
bit-
definitely not as grim as last
There was
episode.
there was a bit of bleak, very very bleak humour.
You don't sound very entertained.
No, I did genuinely enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm like this is actually when the Doctor's being patronising, or in many ways we will die and stuff. When
Yeah. What was
Ian
that? Yeah. What was that?
he's about to
In all intents and purposes, for all intents and purposes, we're going to die. That is the line. It's a very, very good line. It's funny, but it's still a joke about them burning skulls.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It tries to break it up with. It's not funny comedy. It's just sort of there. It's just sort of like a lighter line, I guess is what we
Yeah.
can call it. But because the situation is so grim,
You find it a lot funnier than it actually
is. But I don't think it's meant to be funny. I just think it's meant to break it up and show these are characters. Because even in the worst situation, people are
Yeah.
a bit funny. They're not over the top. They're not like, quipping every couple of seconds when they're in severe. That's what I mean. The reality of this, you would not get this. I don't mean to be cruel. In a more modern episode, of Doctor Who, when people are in scenarios that are supposed to be world-ending, they'll be quipping like mad. Especially the Doctor. This, it feels like that line is good. It's good for us. It's like, oh yes, what are they going to do? And it's a good moment of realization. But you're still in the moment.
Yes.
It doesn't take you out of it. And that's very much it. But no, the whole thing, I very much enjoyed this episode.
I did. Yeah. Sorry, I'm very tired.
I think we should now go on to your moment of the week.
Favourite moment. It would be the Rock interchange for me.
Would it?
It's how clever it is, the way he's getting Cal to reveal that he killed the old woman.
You know what was absolutely depressing? I was going for the very same thing.
That's fair.
That's fair.
It is a good moment.
It's Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's the Doctor being the Doctor.
Exactly, for the first time, I think, and it's a really good moment. And Cal's reaction, he just can't comprehend. He's utterly bewildered. He's fake,
Yeah.
but he's not like, he's still an evil fake. It's not like, oh, ha, 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 look at you, the Doctor outsmarting you. It is more just a clever, that's nice, yeah, go Doctor. Although we don't know he's the Doctor yet, because he's only been called it once.
Yeah, he's just old man on spaceship.
Old man, Dr. Foreman.
Dr. Foreman. What a show that would have been.
You call it Dr. Foreman.
Dr. Foreman.
It kind of loses some of the allure, doesn't it? Would you like to, before we give this episode... Actually, no, we will give this episode a score, then we get to do something we've not done before.
Which
is the story as a whole, what we think of that. But first, scoring the episode.
I would give it a 9. There was only a few minor niggles I had, and it wasn't groundbreaking, but it was solidly damn near perfect written television. Give it a 9 for that reason.
It's depressing. I'm probably going to give it a 9 too. Again, we will differ 1 week.
1 week.
1 week we will differ, but no, we are giving a lovely 9 because I don't think it's 8 material. It's certainly better than last week.
Yeah.
It's got a lot more going on. Great characters build up, all kind of works. But no, that is our first story over.
Yeah.
I'll wait for him to finish yawning
I'm excited. I'm excited for next week.
because next week is our first new story.
Yeah.
What do you think of the story as a whole, then, Unearthly Child?
Mixed in the sense that, not as in mixed in quality, there are sorts of, but first episode is very different to the other three, but that's a location change, and the second to fourth is more about establishing the formula for the rest of the series, which is travelling through space. The first one is about establishing the characters for the very first time. Only way, I think. Same thing Russell T Davies did.
Oh, okay.
If it's a new audience, approach it through something that's familiar.
Yeah.
A school.
Yeah.
In
And then you can go straight into
then
setting
you
up
can
the
start doing the
formula of
world
the
stuff.
series,
But
yeah.
if they started it out, the Doctor and Susan on a spaceship,
you'd lose your
you
entire
would
audience.
lose your audience. This make it relatable, then branch it out.
So, what would you say to the full story? Is there any sort of passing? Do you think it overall works together?
I think it does. It just about ties in because you're following the characters.
Yeah, I think it's very good. It's a very enjoyable story. I do think to properly appreciate it, watch maybe Unearthly Child Part 1 separately, and then watch the next 3.
That's an interesting thing. Yeah.
Because it is kind of a story in its own right. It's setting up what the basics... Basically, so take it as Unearthly Child Part 1 is your instructions for Doctor Who.
Yes.
Your set of instructions, like when you get something to make, and here's your instructions: the TARDIS, Susan, the Doctor, Ian and Barbara. Parts 2 to 4 is the application of those instructions. It's making the cake. It's building the shelf. It's saying this is what we do now. This is our lovely new thing, and these are what our characters do. This is the stuff they get into. And it gives us a really nice story along the way. I think Tsar is one of the most well-written characters in Doctor Who. I think he's great. He goes through so much, and the performance performed by Derek Newark, who will appear later in Inferno, with John Pertwee playing another character with a lot more
Wait,
clothes.
who did he play?
He plays. Oh, I can't remember his name.
No, in this.
He played Tsar.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Who appears as somebody in Inferno. I can't remember his name, but we'll get there in a good couple of years.
We'll get back to it.
And he wears a lot more clothes, you'll be glad to know, and less stubble. But no, that is the Firemaker, and we both give a solid 9 to that. Interestingly, for those who aren't following this, but in my original review series of this, I gave this episode a 7.
How far we've come.
How far we've come. I very much enjoyed that. Have you got any final words?
Bye.
How nice.
Stay tuned next week for the Dead Planets, I guess.
Cliffhanger. We didn't mention the cliffhanger.
We did not. Okay,
We always talk about the cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger, it establishes the fact that we're possibly on a new planet or some kind of
radioactive
something dark because the radiation levels are high, and that shows we're at a new kind of environment.
I didn't really like it.
Did you not?
I just thought it was basic.
It is
radiation's
basic,
normal.
But in the context of it, after being with the cavemen for ages, radiation levels are high. Oh my god! Get your Geiger counters out. I'm excited.
You know what? And this is really odd. I don't think this story should have led into the next one. I think they should have just ended him with them. Where are we going to go next? Oh, well, I don't know. And they've done that whole Doctor Who thing. And you'd have left it like that on a hanging, and then they arrive on the planet next week. I don't think this story needed a cliffhanger leading to the next, but because of the formula of 60s Doctor Who, you have to have each story leading to the other.
I liked it.
Okay. I'm sure we disagree on cliffhangers once again.
Yeah.
I think next week we're probably going to have more of a similar opinion on the cliffhanger, because we know what's coming. It's the big one next week, folks. We introduced something very popular.
Yeah.
Barbara wears slippers. Is that
something like that?
Yeah, something like that. We'll see you all next week for the Dead Planets. So it's goodbye from me and goodbye from Josh.
Yes. See you guys.
Bye. Wow. I must have more. I must hear more things to remember. Oh, we're getting some ducks quacking. I think we got a call.
Hello? What is it?
Hello, sweet Josh.
I can't talk right now.
Alright, bye then.
Sorry, you okay?
That's going in the outtakes.
Great.
What was saying?
Savage.
Savage, like a caveman.
Yes.
It's all come full circle. No,
I
and
do sometimes see my sister knelt by campfires going, oh.